thank you very much for coming to join Indie Distributor today, here with the Manic Boys and Girls Club. Wonderful band from Toronto. Right, but obviously didn't start out there. I wanted to just ask a couple of questions about your origin story and kind of get you to talk a little bit about where things kicked off, and obviously from Portugal. But tell a little bit about the background, if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, so we're actually born Canadian. We're born in Toronto.
Okay.
We just throughout our childhood spent a lot of time going to Portugal and spent a lot of time there. So we have a strong influence, and we obviously speak the language and all that, and have a lot strong ties to the country. But it was just a lot of our back and forth was what we did. Yeah.
And that was with your grandmother, I think it said.
Parents, and we stayed with our grandmother when we were alone.
So when did the musical journey start kicking off then?
I think as kids, kind of just keeping your kids out of trouble, kind of getting them into what our parents probably assumed was going to be a hobby. Just got us into it, and we really obsessed over it and got really into it. Kind of on our own for ever, kind of as kids, and then we kind of just started working. Well, we always kind of bounced ideas off each other about working together, this band probably in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's pretty recent, but it kind of also feels like we've been doing it our whole lives, right?
Yeah. But that kicked off, that would have happened partly in Portugal, but then in Canada, but mostly in Canada? How did the split happen?
A big chunk of every year since we were born, we spent in Portugal. Our parents were really concerned that we wouldn't they're first generation immigrants, so they were really concerned, scared of us not knowing what our roots were and stuff.
Or they might have always had a plan also to move back.
They had that, I think, in the back of their minds as well. So there's all this
thing we're going to end up in Portugal, so it was just always the presence in our upbringing, right? Not realizing how damaging that could be as a kid.
And I think our mom found it really hard to leave her parents, and so she just wanted us to really strengthen the bond, and they were always there as well.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of back and forth for sure. That we were at the time, to be honest, for me anyway, it was a little frustrating because I wanted to have more ties with my friends here or whatever growing up, and but now I look back and I'm we were really fortunate to have that gift. I think it's a gift to have spent time with their grandparents that much, and also just to have that exposure to that whole different world. And as a result, I think a lot of the musical influences seeped into what we do now. And I think it was a gift. It was a blessing. We just, at the time, I found it a little bit frustrating.
Well, I mean, and it might have tied into, because recently you opened the Portugal Musical Awards.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
So last year, we won Video of the Year at the International Portuguese Music Awards, and then that blew us away. We were blown away. We didn't think we were going to win. And then we get this random email, and they said, well, we'd like you to come back and perform. So that blew us away. And then only when we got there did they tell us, well, you're actually opening the show. And there's this whole video kind of montage leading into the opening. You're going to be in it. So we ended up going there a couple weeks prior to the show, and we did some B-roll filming, and they incorporated that into the opening. So it just became I think the most coveted, the most special spot in the show to have been part of. So we're just so grateful.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable, and it's a whole weekend of the whole event is more than just the one show. There's prelude to
the treatment and
it's
is this what it's like?
I know.
We're and then a few apologies that are I don't know, our tech doesn't have your gauge of guitar strings or something. It's what? So someone is tuning my guitar for me or whatever, you know what I mean? I thought we were going to be carrying our gear for every gig, but our gear's shipped there. I get there, cases are open. Everything's just brilliant. So great, and we're wow, it must be amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it definitely ruined us for any future shows. Now we have that standard.
Yeah. Once you stay to 4 seasons, you have to go to the Super 8. Well, that sounds like an amazing experience. So, and kind of the ethos of your music, you kind of play into everyone should be part of the club.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about it being a community as opposed to a fan base.
Absolutely.
So, tell us a little bit about how that sort of feels to you guys.
I mean, for me, I've always wanted to feel part of something. Maybe it's because we spent time here, time there in Europe, and there wasn't strong ties to being part of a clique or anything like that. So any band I've always loved, I felt like it was kind of a club of some sort, and like that's the one thing. You go to a show to your favorite band, and like suddenly all these strangers around you feel like we all have one thing in common. We love the band on stage. We know the lyrics. We're singing along together. The songs touch us. That's why we're here. That's why we pay tickets to be here. And that's kind of like the dream, if you find like your people. And so we just decided to name the band the club, because that's essentially what we wanted. We didn't want to just put out a bunch of songs and have people see us and it's like they're watching a rehearsal. We wanted to be like, it's okay, we're all in this together, we're all lost together, we're all clueless.
For whatever reason, our band, like, I don't think we're really part of a scene.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's like that's definitely not positive, I guess it's a negative. But I mean, like, I don't feel like we're downtown Toronto band or whatever. For whatever reason, it's kind of like we just kind of do our thing. I don't feel like we really fit into what may be going on right now or whatever. But then we'll play like in the U.S. and we'll be like, the Canadian outsider band.
Right.
So we don't really have any groove that we really fit in. So whoever's into us is kind of like just, we're in this together. Just like our small, fan base is like that's it, right? It doesn't really go beyond the music and what we are.
I love that. I think that hopefully gives you a little bit of it takes some of the stress off in a way, because
you're not chasing anything. You're not really like, I don't know, like we love like, when we play with bands and there's always like, you build relationships, and if you like gel or see eye to eye, we'll play with bands like multiple times, or bands like, we gotta play again together or whatever. We'll do a string of shows together, and that's amazing when you find that. So it's like whether you're a fellow musician or a fan or bar staff that like we played in Portugal last summer, and like there are like bartenders and people that we played in front of that are still like in touch with us and contacting us like, when are you coming back? And so you just like have these magical little moments you find, right? So
well, and I think the advent of social and Spotify and the rest of it are lead us to think that 500 people is not a lot of people. But I mean, if I had 500 people to help me move, I mean, I'd be really happy. But or 500 people to come to one of our shows, it would be fantastic. So it's kind of like we need to deprogram ourselves from the sentiment that
absolutely,
you're not making it unless you have 50K streams, or you have 50K followers on Instagram, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a really cool way of looking at it. Is that a group of people that are in on the secret.
Yeah.
That keeps expanding, right?
For sure.
So also I wanted to ask, because interested about band origin stories, but then also you worked with Gavin Brown for I think it's a select group of songs, or perhaps
we did an EP, 5 songs.
Our debut EP, yeah.
Right. And what was that process like working with a producer? Was it different than kind of the dynamic that you had already experienced, creating music yourselves?
So working with Gavin it's its own beast, because he kind of gives you like tough love. Whatever recording experience we had, I mean, I personally felt very like praised and this and that, and then like you sit in the room with Gavin.
It's like, what, we're not impressing you?
And it was like, that's not good enough. Go home, write it again, come back.
He's very good at what he does.
Yeah, he doesn't
Super
write
talented.
with you, but he definitely tells you what you've written.
What's wrong with what you're doing?
It's not right or not good enough.
Fascinating.
Little things that are so self-explanatory. Like I think sometimes we have a tendency to get metaphoric or whatever with our lyrics, or a little poetic or whatever. A lot of the songs we like, it's like the lyrics lend themselves to your own. Yeah, like to your own interpretation.
Why do they have to make sense?
Really? Come on.
They rhyme. That's already huge. But then, Gavin was kind of like a voice of reason in a tough love kind of way. And he'd be like, I don't know what you're trying to say. And I think it was just us hiding, like maybe it's from our upbringing or whatever. It's not always easy to talk about your feelings and emotions, and that's the kind of
it's like the classic like hiding behind the lyrics.
So
right?
we were hiding behind the lyrics here and there, and then to have someone be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, tell me what you're trying to say." Well, I'm trying to say this, and like you feel kind of shy, and he's like, "Then say that."
That's the lyric.
That's the lyric.
Interesting.
And so that was very eye-opening, I think, because we've been my first song I wrote when I was 7. Fernando was probably around the same age, and we've gone through years of writing what we thought were like songs that people can interpret and whatever, and it's all art and it's great. But then you have someone just kind of tell you like, yeah, I don't know what that means, and like, why don't you just say what you mean? And as simple as that sounds, sometimes it's the hardest thing for us to do, because you suddenly feel like way too exposed, vulnerable, naked in a sense. But that was what I got out of it the most, I think.
That's really interesting feedback, because did you find that after you had received that input, that the song was easier to perform live?
Everything. All of a sudden from here on, we're like, okay, just forget your ego or your shyness or whatever. Sense. It turns on a switch in your head, and you're just like, I'm just going to say what I feel. And like, this is the music that people so far, have related the most to, because we are kind of just putting it all out there and saying this is it. And the songs are, for the most part, biographical or whatever. It's stories, it's life stories, real life stories. And I think that, it's scary, but then when you do it and you kind of let go, it's rewarding in its own way.
Yeah. So with future initiatives, future recordings, would you be working with other producers? Would that be part of the mix, or how has it changed kind of the way that you go at your writing process now?
That's a good question. I don't know. We rarely kind of let people into like what we do, right? It's like even with Gavin, it's like us and Gavin in the rehearsal room. It's not like there's like many people in the room or whatever. So,
Okay.
I love him. Like I would work with Gavin again, but who knows what the future holds or what's around the corner.
We just crossed paths with another person who's become more like a friend now, and who's a producer as well out of Los Angeles, and we just worked on a song together. And that in itself is totally different, but magical.
Like a completely different type of monster in the studio,
Sure.
So we have a song we just finished with him, and I think we'll be doing more with him as well. So we're excited to share that. We're going to be playing, starting now, we'll be playing that song live, even though it's not released yet. I don't think we'll exclusively work with one producer or another. It's just whoever we jive with. And
also depends a little on the song, you know what I mean? Like certain people have their fortes and their what their strengths are, and I think I don't know.
So that makes sense. I mean, it leads me to think about release philosophy. So rather EP or singles or albums, because that seems to be in a bit of a state of flux right now for independent artists. The sort of prevailing sentiment is release singles. What's your take on what the next project is going to look like in that regard?
I think singles, I like concentrating on one thing in the studio, not just being like, okay, this is our body of work and this is our focus track, and then these are whatever. I don't think that we never really. And the other thing is that I know a lot of bands write a lot and go in and then just record their favorite 5 that they've demoed or 10 or whatever, right?
Right.
So we've never done that. I've never done that. I never do that. I think we both edit very early in the writing stages. So if it makes it to a certain point, it's like a pretty important song to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always make the joke, because people go in with 50 songs and they release an album of 12 tracks or whatever. We go in with 4 and we come out with 6. You know what I mean? We'll write in the studio, something will happen that'll turn into a song that we didn't have prepared.
Nice.
And we'll always go in pretty unfinished. These are all wrong answers.
Yeah, don't make
people are when you're in the studio, you're just there to track. Everything is prepared beforehand. And it's never happens.
Wow.
It's we go
There's
in
something that happens when you're
75% complete, and we leave that 25% for
last
the improvisation and the excitement of it, which could backfire, but hopefully something magical happens or you're inspired in the moment.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then you have that one night to go home and come back the next day for studio and
Yeah.
make something happen.
Sorry, Bela, you mentioned that happened with, did you say Last Train? That was one of the things that occurred?
I mean, all of the songs pretty much. Like there was last minute magic that kind of happens depending on where you're recording. Like even this latest song that's not released yet that we did in LA, like where we recorded was this house with like a ton of history, and even the neighborhood it was in, it just felt very like from a different time, like old Hollywood. And that in itself kind of, I think last minute we changed things because the song originally had started here in Toronto, in Canada. Well, not here, but you know what I mean, in Toronto. And being there, things got adjusted at the last minute. And I think it's like your little souvenir. Like when you go somewhere, you bring back a postcard or whatever. That's what we do. Whenever we go somewhere, we bring back that, 15 or 20% little thing that happened in the studio where you recorded it. So, that happened.
Nice.
I think with every song, yeah.
Gavin also, he wasn't impressed by my guitar playing, which is a first. Everyone loves when I play guitar.
He was or he wasn't?
Was not.
Was not.
Okay.
He wasn't not.
No, he was
impressed.
not. I was like, really? Like everyone is always like your pocket or I'm not super flashy, but it's like everyone always talks about like my pocket and rhythm.
Basically, our ego took a major.
And I was like, what? So your guitar player,
Yeah.
he had this thing where he wanted basically to like in a non-human way get to the next chord in like a 30-second beat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So if it's like he wanted like 0 time, 0 slide noise, 0 string noise, like very precise.
Huh.
So I'll be playing. It's like, oh, felt good, good take. And I'm not talking about like my buddy says it works. It's like we've worked with other producers that have names and whatever.
Yeah.
Like Dave Bottrell's in my neighborhood. He's a Canadian guy from Dundas, Ontario.
Yeah.
He produced Muse and like mega records in the UK when he lived there. And he's like, oh, I love working with you guys. Like, oh, great. Like, I know it's going to be super easy in the studio and blah, blah, blah. There's not a lot of like, editing involved. It's like, we know how to like trap. We've done this. And Gavin was like, oh, no, yeah, you got to do that again. I was like, really? That felt so good. He's like, no. Like, there's like, in between the chords, like, there's noise. It's like, well, how am I supposed to go up 7 frets or whatever? Like, I don't know, little things like that. We're very specific. It was bizarre.
Yeah,
so then I started playing
Maleficent
like super,
thing
like,
for sure.
but I guess when you get used to it, it just becomes like super like robotic almost. But I guess for the bed tracks, he just wants it
Clean.
mega clean.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can see that, but there's another thing to be said for feel too.
For
like,
sure.
True. I mean, I don't think it sounds mega edited. Like when I hear like a Imagine Dragons record or something when it's like it sounds robotic. I don't think our stuff got to that. But he was very, very particular about
But you
playing.
know what? He said, like, he ended up playing the drums on the album.
Okay.
And
He's a very good drummer.
He was just like, I mean, I'm not like great, or I'm very meat and potatoes, but I mean, if you want, I can do the drums. And we were like, he said he's not very good. And then he gets in there and he did like the whole thing in one take, and we were blown away. Like I
he's
love
a very
the
good
drum,
drummer. So I didn't know he was the drummer in
on
Big
the
Sugar
songs.
way back.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's great.
I never liked that band.
And he doesn't think or at least he talked like he didn't think he was
He's
great.
like,
So I
I'm
think
just
his
gonna, like,
standards
play
was
singles.
Well, this is the under promise and over deliver thing.
Yeah.
We're just like,
Yes.
let's just set their expectations really low and see how it goes.
He was a
And then
great
recording
drummer.
piano.
Well, he didn't play the piano.
No, but I did. And
Yeah.
we had that other piano player that I don't know who he is. I don't remember.
his
He came in
long
for like an
hair.
afternoon, like a buddy of his or whatever.
Yeah.
And hands recorded separately, so only the right hand, then only the left hand.
Oh, really?
So because he'll treat it differently depending on the octave.
Yeah.
Like very like
Precise.
Yeah.
production. Like really?
Yeah.
He
Well-
did the trick with the drums where you record the cymbals on an overdub.
Okay.
So you can make the drums and the room mics massive because there's no washy cymbals. You just hit a piece of carpet or whatever instead of the cymbals, and he's just playing toms and snare and kick, and everything's massive, and you don't have any like crazy cymbal noise, and then goes in and just does crashes. Yeah.
Wow.
But plays it with feel. Like it doesn't sound, again, it's not robotic and it's not edited.
Yeah.
He's done it, I guess, so much that's just his way to maximize the room and the mics and everything, right?
Yeah. It's really fascinating just seeing what the process is for different producers.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So those are his tricks, though.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I loved
Hand your
his
way.
drum. I
He's
loved
all about the
his drum
separating the
playing.
drums.
I loved his drum tracks. Love them.
Yeah.
I was so intimidated when we were in the studio with him. I don't think I ever like told him because I was just, I don't know, he just kind of made me nervous. I don't know if he made you nervous, but Yeah, I loved when he played the drums. It was just, the room lit up.
Nice. So going forwards, what are you bringing with you in terms of, how have the processes so far informed your writing style and your work ethic, and how, what's the next project going to look like from that perspective?
Well, I won't have any string noise.
Right, exactly. My chords changes are going to be immaculate.
You know what? I don't even know how to answer that. I don't know. It's all we have so many new song ideas, whether it's on our cell phones or whatever, voice memos that are so kind of like
everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank God for voice memos, by the way.
Yeah, I think they turn into what we sound like when we get together and play them in a room.
Right.
But it's hard to we don't have a specific.
Yeah, no. We never have a plan, though. I always say this, any plan we've made, it's never turned out. Nothing comes of it. And then when we're not making plans, these amazing opportunities come up, or people will cling on to songs that we in the studio didn't necessarily think were going to be the one that people would be drawn to the most. With the new songs, it's a continuation of just true story. Everything we write is pretty real to us, part of our lives and stuff. And, we like to treat each song like it's such a encapsulated moment in time or whatever. So we our plan is, as long as it's possible, to make a video for each song, to treat each song like its own little mini movie, or like it's an album even, because they're special. And sometimes you'll get albums and there's all these B-sides that you think are better than the singles, and they were never really shown properly. They were never made, there was never a video for them or whatever. So we just try to we don't write a million songs when we go in the studio, but each one is its own way, so we try to treat it that way.
Which takes us back to releasing single by single.
Yeah.
It's kind of each thing has its own moment and its own
there's a reason why we record each song. It's not just we just need to come up with 10 songs or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that every group has their own philosophy of whether the statement of the work is in a multi-varied project that has some lighter fare, some heavier stuff, some from theme as well as musical style, and then but
well, there's something to be said about albums as well. I totally get that, the flow and listening to something top to bottom. I just don't know if the tracks 3 to 9 get the fair shake or whatever, what I mean, with just the way music is listened to.
I even think about I'm an album person.
Yeah, I love it.
And I don't have a lot of time to listen to albums straight through. I'll end up, they're all truncated, right?
Yeah.
And it's I listen to tracks 1 through 3, and then I listen to them again because it's I want to hear the entire statement in context, and then I end up, not having an opportunity to listen to the entire album, which is really frustrating. But
I mean, it's that thing your fans could be dating, or it could be married to you. And I think if you're at the point where you have a international fan base that's married to you, they will listen to the interludes and all that stuff. But while you're still in the dating phase, I don't know. And I feel like we have a lot of dates. I don't think
we're not even engaged yet.
We're not engaged yet. So maybe at that point, you know what I mean? There comes a time. There are bands that I love, but I don't know if I'd want to see them for an hour and a half. I just love that band enough to see them as a support act or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting analogy. Because I think a lot of bands are probably still trying to figure out what that means for them, right? Whether they're, whether they're more comfortable doing full statement albums because that's the expectation, or if they're just intending to do singles and then eventually they'll become an EP. Everybody goes at it differently, but
we released 12 songs. They're called the Basement Tapes, which is just literally small short song ideas and things that for the people that want the big picture.
To get married, yeah.
If you don't want to get married, they'll get the real, the real
the balled
deal,
up socks on the floor and then cap off the toothpaste.
You wanted it. You wanted all of me. This is it.
Here we are.
Like untuned,
like
unmastered.
an acoustic guitar. Yeah, definitely unmastered. Like acoustic guitar, vocals, some ambient
You
stuff.
kind of. It's funny. We were listening to it we never listened to our own songs, but we listened to it on the ride over here, and I was just like, wow, this feels like you're in the room with us. Like it's very stripped down, bare bone.
That's great, though.
But yeah, so we did that. It was kind of initially anyone that would go on our site and subscribe, like just add their email, would get that as part of it as a gift or something, gifted to them. And now we just release the whole thing, so it's just a series of
like covers we like just very random,
not all
like
of them are
rehearsal
English.
room stuff.
That's a really good idea, though. Because, you know, for the ones that are into marriage.
Yeah. And you put the word basement in it, it forgives everything.
Exactly.
Because that mistake, it's a basement thing.
Amazing. What did you expect?
Yeah. So, can I ask a little bit about the video?
Yeah.
Because I know as an indie artist, that's one of the challenges that we have is to determine where the approach is going to be for videos. Mm-hmm. What is your experience now? Because you've done a few, and they're fabulous, and obviously you won an award, maybe multiple, you know. So what does that look like for you? Do you have that in mind, and you have people that you work with?
So we are very fortunate. We have some friends that are film guys,
Nice.
and the whole video experience involves like the two of us and usually like one or two other people. It's an incredibly small crew. Like we usually have like peanut butter and jam as the craft services, and we actually we filmed all of them, right? Except for the first one.
Blacked Out we filmed.
Blacked Out we did
Toronto.
in Toronto. But the other ones we did in Los Angeles because we have some friends there, and we usually just end up telling them our idea, whatever storyline we're picturing. And we have kind of come to a system. We go to this place called Mexicali. It's in Studio City, and we get the margarita jug.
Is that the taco place?
Yeah. And we'll sit there and like if we're stumped for ideas. Usually when we write the song, we listen back and we're like, I already know what I see happening. But if we're a little stumped or like we're in doubt, we have the jug and the margarita.
Like, this is how it could work.
By the end, I'm telling you, every single video has started and ended this way. We get the margarita jug, and by the end, we've got the video. It's crazy, but it works every time. And then we just go about it. We usually have
we generally are like, okay, here's a talented friend, or we have a few friends that we've won, few options when someone's like in the middle of something, like there's no way I could do this. I'm way behind schedule on whatever project, like major thing he's working on.
Yeah.
But generally everyone really likes doing indie work with no rules and no real
permits.
And
no
their
commercial
input.
side.
Yeah, just like let's do something creative. The deal is we've got to do it in maybe 24 hours. I'm not gonna like give you guys like a week of shooting around the city or whatever.
No one could afford that.
But if it's an idea that can be pulled off fast with like little to zero actors, it's really just your imagination is the only limitation you have, right? So whatever you could pull off. So like our last thing, this filmmaker Loic was like, well, we had there was gonna be a car in it, and he's like, well, it's got to be cool. Got to at least rent a cool car. We can't have a car that is clearly from like LAX or whatever, like or a Prius or there's like that website that you can find people with really cool vintage cars that will rent you a car for a day or whatever.
Okay.
And I guess people do that and they just pretend it's theirs and they go out on dates or go out, right? Because we had like a 60s Mustang, for a couple $100. There's your like iconic vehicle in the video.
That's funny.
Right? So that was like the big expense for this video.
Right.
It was like that thing. So we like
so the
got
car
to use that
becomes
car a
the
lot.
focal point.
Well, it's just because a couple of actors, everyone's an actor in LA, and with a couple of friends and a couple of talented people, hopefully they could pull it off and be cool with working all day, all night.
Yeah.
This friend of ours who's actually like a fashion designer has this insane loft, like warehouse apartment in downtown LA that we were just hanging out, and the location came to us while we were there. We're like, first it started with like, you want to be in our video? Because he's just such a character.
He's so cool.
We're like, we gotta like write this guy in the video.
He actually designed Fernando's jacket that he wore to the International
Jacket that I
Portuguese
wore
Music
at these awards.
Yeah, so you look him up. It's
Yeah.
Bohemian Society, and like his clothes are just insane.
Yeah,
And
okay.
him
Like-
as a character, like his clothes are like
he's
a
like
direct
the
reflection
real
of his
deal
personality. He's
guerrilla
amazing.
style, like Los Angeles designer.
He makes you feel
fluff.
like anything's possible in fashion and lifestyle. And then on video, he literally was in the video. And we were just like, he's like, what do I wear? We're like, don't move. Like, you are the character.
Just be.
Just breathe and be. Exactly.
And then was like, actually, could we just shoot here in your apartment? Yeah. And he's like, yeah. So it was like that came together. Like
That's
you can't set design that place. Like, it's like perfect. You know, we got like a fake fire, like a movie quality firearm, like a gun in this last video. I'm talking about the video for Sorry, by the way. I don't know which.
Yeah.
But and then like it's like total LA. The guy's like, why don't you just tell me? He's like, I do have a gun if you need it. So now there's like a real gun on set.
Just relax.
Too much?
With the details.
Too much. I'll stop there with the details. But a lot of reality was in the studio.
Nobody got shot intentionally.
Yeah. But so there was that. And then kind of the same situation for We'll Be Fine. Friend of ours is like not an actor, but just the perfect person for this role. And we were like, man, you got to take like a day and a half off work or whatever. Or did we do it on a weekend? And we were like, you got to do this thing with us. And the best was like we just found this like pumpkin farm that the guy shooting was like, oh, there's a guy with a pumpkin farm that I think we just like use. We usually just like shoot in the city until you get kicked out or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, told to stop on the street. But we wanted to. There's a scene where he lights his shirt on fire at the end, and they were just like, that's where we draw the line, man. It's like we love this, but we were like, we got to have this at the end. And they're like, we can't do that in LA with the amount of fires and the hot wind blowing. And he's like, there's no way we're going to do this. And then we talked him into doing it if we were on private property.
Right.
Which is just as dangerous, but whatever. So
we'll gloss over that, though.
So we did that. And then we get to this private property pumpkin farm. And this guy had a man-made waterfall in his like backyard or whatever, and we're like, random. What is this?
They're like these wild.
We're like shooting there, and we're like, what? And again, the guy, I'm imagining he inherited this farm because he was just like, yeah, just give me a case of beer, man, whatever, you do whatever you want. So we get there, we're like, what's with the waterfall? And he's like, oh, I just wanted like a pool that looks like a little like whatever ravine or lagoon or something with this pump. So picture it's like a human-sized fish pond. But the waterfall is probably like, 25 feet high or something?
It was really high. And then we expected our friend to
and then we're like,
jump
how
off,
deep is it?
And he did it.
And the guy's like, oh, yeah, you're fine to jump off. It's like, I'm like, really, though? Like, are you sure?
Is he going to break his ankles?
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you're good. I do it all the time. So we're like, all right. And then our buddy does it. He says he, like, touched the floor. Like, he hit the bottom. But he didn't get hurt. But, yeah, so we just wrote in this part on the spot to jump off this waterfall because it was just like, where else? This is like iconic, right?
Wow.
And then he had this abandoned super stretched limo.
A limo on his property.
Yard, and it was all shot and like someone had lit it on fire. And we're like, can we use this?
He's like, what's with the limo? And he's like, oh, I just practiced like shooting.
So there's a part in We'll Be Fine where we're sitting on this stretch limo that's wrecked.
Has nothing to do with the video.
We just wrote it in.
We were just like, we have to use this limo.
He said, yeah, walk on it, sit on it, whatever you want.
So that's kind of how the videos usually go.
Yeah.
So for artists that are kind of trying to break into that aspect, they may not have contacts, they may not know people in the, what advice would you have for them on where to start?
I think the mentality is the same. It's not about like the quality or the gear or the whatever. I think it's just like a great, and I don't know if we've had great ideas, but a great idea badly shot will still resonate with people. You know what I mean? Like just something creative, and we basically work with what we have. So it's like we had a limo, a pumpkin farm with a thing, and our friend who said he would do it. So it's like, okay, let's make it work with what we have.
Right.
There was zero rental budgets or locations or permits.
And that was the one that won Video of the Year, and it was
literally our friend who has a job.
Yeah.
Who just agreed to do this with us,
Nice.
I think when we started, we thought you need this incredible idea, this huge set, a ton of actors, to make a video that we would be happy with. And it's like Fernando said, like, if you just come up with a cool idea, like, you don't need all the bells and whistles. You really don't. You just, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
There are many very expensive videos that are terrible, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And dead boring. And there are great performance videos. They're just a band that are just performing so well.
Absolutely.
That it just works, like, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, some of my favorite videos are performance videos.
I mean, you know, it doesn't need to get super complicated. And I think with the advent of, you know, TikTok and the TikTok generation, the expectation is that authenticity wins over production.
Sure.
Absolutely.
It doesn't need to be something super polished because that kind of seems like the man anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So that's great. So sort of more generally for artists that are kind of coming up, knowing that, you know, independent music is kind of one of the focuses of the Indie Distributor. What advice do you have for up-and-coming artists that are kind of trying to get to that first rung on the ladder?
Me personally, I would just say play as often as you can live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that'll be the one thing you can't
Replace.
You can't replace. AI is not going to replace that.
We hope not.
So it's just, if you play live, doesn't matter if you're playing for 2 people or 2,000 people, like, just get out there, because you're just like, nobody knows where the band's going to end up. So at least enjoy the ride along the way. Like, you don't forget why you started playing an instrument or why you started singing. It's because, assuming this is the reason you love music and you love art and you love performing, whether you're shy or not, there's something in you that's like, no, go start a band. Like, you must have something in you. Don't forget that, you know, because if you start getting carried away with everything else and business and streams and this, that, you're probably, you know, just going to get wrapped up and hate the music industry by the end of the day. I think just play live as often as you can. You're going to get better as a performer. You're going to make friends along the way. You're going to create your own little movement, and it will get bigger every time you play.
Or a club.
And, yeah, or a club. And like, it's like, you can't replace that. As the artist, nothing's going to replace playing live. And as the fan, like, nothing's going to replace seeing the band they love live, you know? So I live by that. Like, no matter what, I'm just like, I honestly get really depressed if I don't have like a string of shows lined up. But I don't get depressed when I look at other aspects of the business or whatever. I'm just like, whatever. It's probably a losing battle anyway. At least let's enjoy the ride. So that's always the forefront of my plans or my mind or whatever.
Love that.
It's just the way it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, kind of along those lines. I think there's like, you know, it's such a crapshoot of like what's gonna happen, or popularity contest or whatever online. So just like be a great band and just do your thing. Like, I don't know, just like, yeah, enjoy it. And I think nothing replaces a live band.
Yeah.
And there's feelings that we've experienced in even rehearsal rooms, or when you just gel with like a certain, you know, combination of people, that it's just like magical when you're growing up. And it's like, that's such a shame if you don't experience that. If you're just singing or playing in front of your cell phone and not really playing shows, but just like doing it, trying to do what kind of everyone seems to be doing. I don't know if that's like success. Even if you do hit like the crazy, you know, quantity of streams or whatever, I don't know. What does that even mean? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
that's my thought.
No, I totally agree. And I think, you know, it's not to overuse the term, but like the club philosophy of ensuring that you have a dedicated group of people that really focus on what you're trying to accomplish. And that can be 5 people. That can be 5,000. You know, it doesn't. It's really just having that focal point. And I think that's great insight for sure. So what's next for you guys? What's coming up?
More live shows for sure.
Sweet.
We're putting together a string of shows. We're going back to Portugal this summer again. We did like an introduction tour last summer. We did a string of the kind of record stores, kind of bookstores. They're called FNAC. It's a franchise throughout Europe. And we did all the ones in Portugal. And it's a nice way to kind of introduce people to to your band, because each...
So what it is it's a shop, like like you said, like records, but now record stores are like DVDs, record, like, I don't know, like books. Yeah. So it's like a music store, but in Europe they have venues in them with like sound men and like a stage and lights.
That sounds really...
They have like a little bar
very
there.
cool.
It's just incredible.
There's like, basically 3 people to speak to book Northern Portugal, Central, and the South. And we just put together, like 16 dates or something.
Yeah.
Was that last July? Yeah, 16 shows. And
excellent.
we just like go all over the country playing these daytime shows, promoting your music, your band, and now we're going back and playing.
But they'll help you
venues.
Promote, like they have posters done and little, booklets done so people know about it, and all the locals know that, okay, that's where you go to discover like a new band, and then especially if it's an out of country band, there's a little more attention drawn, so you will perform for a decent audience, and it's a little weird because they're sitting down, but yeah, it's great, and and so we did that last year, and so this year we're kind of graduating to do like clubs and stuff, so we're just trying to figure it all out because we got some last minute gigs kind of
early July,
and now like
end of
late July, so now we're like, okay, I guess we're gonna do a couple weeks in the middle of July or something, so we have to be back for some things that kind of came up last minute. So yeah, just to answer your question, playing live.
Nice.
And we're gonna be recording some more music as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear it. All right, that's amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is
Bela.
great.
No, it's our pleasure. So really looking forward to hearing the next new stuff, and
awesome.
Hopefully at some point. I know you're playing the Horseshoe, right? Coming up.
We're playing on Friday.
You're playing on Friday.
I don't know. By the time this comes out, maybe it'll be like, didn't you guys love the Horseshoe? It was great. We sold it out. It was amazing. But yeah, we're playing Friday. So.
Well, have a great show, and
thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to join us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.